Hi, this is Jenny Kae. Thanks everybody for joining me. You're probably wondering why I'm hunkered down like this today, because our topic is rotary cutting. What am I doing wrong? It is a question I get every time I teach a beginner class, every time I teach people how to do it. So I'm going to take you through troubleshooting. We're going to talk about all the different issues that can come up when you're rotary cutting. But first, before we get started, just a few housekeeping things. Oh, no, I think we just got started there. Okay, anyways, let me go over it again. Our topic is rotary cutting. What am I doing wrong? A question I often get asked. And I'm hunkered down like this in a weird position so that I can better show you the cutting technique. So I'll be moving the camera around a little bit, but I'm sure you can roll with me. Okay, so just a few housekeeping things. One, be sure to like. If you like this video, I'd love to hear from you and make any comments that you want to. If you are just seeing this later on in the day or at another time, feel free to make a comment. I will be checking back and answering any of your questions. So leave comments and I'll answer questions. And I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Your questions and my answers. So just a few things. One, if you want to know more about me, you can visit my website, jennykaequilts.com, or on my Facebook page, Jenny Kae Quilts, which is where you are now, yay. And I'll tell you about this beautiful quilt. Let me move the camera a little bit. This beautiful quilt back here. Now, some of you already know, if you have signed up for my website, signed up for my newsletter on my website, you can get this pattern, How Many Circles, for free. And I will send that to you, and you can get it and enjoy it and just start having fun with that. So that would be great if you'd sign up for that. If you like this video, or if you are seeing it at a later time, not the time that I'm live, that's okay. You know what you can do? You can subscribe to this, and then every time I come up live, you will get an alert, or you can watch it at that time, or you can watch it later if you want to. So either one is fine. Either one works out. All right. So today, I don't have any works in progress that I can show you really, because I am doing the step outs for a Fawns and Porter photo shoot, Fawns and Porter filming. I'm going to be teaching a block of the month with them, and so all the step outs are kind of to be revealed as we go along with the show. But next week is going to be really cool because I'm going to be finishing filming up just right about this time, and I'm going to do a semi-live broadcast. And that means that I am going to take my phone with me and I'm going to walk around the studio and give you a behind the scenes look. What's it like in the green room and craft services and behind the camera and on the other side, just take you on a little tour. So if you have questions about what it's like to be on camera or what it's like on my view when I'm being filmed, I'm going to show you through that. Be sure to leave those questions with me. Let me know what those questions are and I will answer them for you. All right, so let's get started without any more ado. Rotary cutting, what am I doing wrong? Let's get started. Today we are going to cover, first we're going to cover equipment, different rotary cutting equipment that might be giving you issues. And then if we get there, we're going to talk about user error. I mean, not that we make any mistakes, but just in case, we're going to cover those too. All right, so let me adjust the camera here a little bit. Bear with me. And I'm going to slide it back. All right, so you can see this, this piece of fabric that I'm working on. I decided to use a fat quarter, and we're going to pretend it's a full yardage, right? So we're pretend this is big, because otherwise there wouldn't be enough room. You wouldn't be able to see anything that's going on. So here's my fabric. You may notice something. If you can see here on the top, how those don't match up. Happens all the time with your fabric. I have straightened it out. I have created the straight of grain in the manufacturing. Well, it's a whole thing for another time. But in the manufacturing, things are supposed to be woven together nice and straight, but as they whip around, as they get spun onto the bolt, as they get shipped, things skew. This is an indication that this fabric somewhere in the manufacturing process has skewed. So I have ripped it on one edge to fix that, and now I'm going to be cutting on the straight of grain. And the reason straight of grain is important is because if we want to control the bias anywhere the bias is. If I have my straight of grain line, I know where it is, and my bias is going to be going this way, so I can be in control of that and give myself better results. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is talk about rotary cutters themselves. This is your standard rotary cutter, right? That's your standard fella. And remember, it has a locking mechanism. What I want to tell you before we even really get into this, remember, this is a rolling razor blade. You need to treat it with respect. It will gradually become an extension of your hand, but treat it with respect. Don't do silly stuff with it, like leave it on the table unlocked where somebody's going to knock it off. Don't cut on the floor where your feet are. Don't cut across wires and you know, snap stuff. Don't do that. Just be careful, be wise, and protect yourself with it. All right, so here's our rotary cutter. Now, things that can go wrong with the rotary cutter. I remember a few years ago I was teaching a class, and one of the gals said, "Oh, I know rotary cutters on the supply list, but I don't use rotary cutters. I just use scissors." And I said, "Well, why is that?" "Well, I've never gotten it to work for me." "Okay, well, why don't you bring it, and we'll see how it goes." So she brought it, and she tried to use it, and her technique looked just fine, and everything looked like it should work fine. I said, "Here, try mine." She tried mine, and it worked beautifully. It was a problem with the cutter from the very beginning for her. Sometimes you got a bad cutter. So sometimes it happens. Other things that can go wrong is that it might not be loaded correctly. Sometimes, and I've locked it, see, locked it, yeah, right. I've locked it, but sometimes what can happen is for some reason your blade needs to face a particular direction and you've got it switched in the opposite direction. Sometimes you can accidentally load two in there, because I know when you're taking them out of the package, they're really close and snuggly. But if you take them apart and you load two, then it's not going to cut very well for you. You just need one at a time. So sometimes that can happen. Sometimes you can have it in backwards. The other thing that can sometimes happen and cause you issues is that you've been sewing with it for a long time and it's starting to get dull. That's an issue. You know, getting dull, it just won't cut consistently, quickly, every time you expect it to. The other thing that can happen is that you can get a bunch of lint in there, and you need to, when you change your blades, you need to kind of clean that lint out, because that could also be an issue that's giving you problems. Second thing would be the ruler. Now, I started quilting 16 years ago, and this was the ruler I got. Good old-fashioned Omni Grid, a classic. But it did have issues because it slips. They have changed things now. They're always upgrading and changing things. But I put little tiny sandpaper discs on there to keep the ruler from slipping, which is how I made it work for me at that time. So that's another option that you have, is to put little sandpaper discs. I have to tell you, though, confession time, my favorite brand of rulers right now is the Creative Grid rulers, because they've done a lot of steps that, you know, as a quilter, you think like, duh, why didn't I think of that? So they have this part underneath here on every ruler in several spots, not just on the corners or a few things, but in several spots. It's like sandpaper already, but you can see through it. So it's not an issue. You're trying to get little fine details. You don't have to worry about that. It's going to hold it all secure. It's not going to slip around on you. And so I love these guys. They come in all different sizes and permutations, you know, of the making of rulers. There is no end. There's all different kinds that you can try and like. So these ones, Creative Grids, right now are my favorite. And every time I go to the shop and I say, here, this is the one I'm buying, this is the one I like, then they put it on the shelf and it flies out the door. So these are good rulers. And we're going to use this. We're going to pretend it's our classic ruler size, which is one of these big fellas, which really, as a beginning quilter, really all I used was one that was 24 by 6. I think this is 24 by 6.5. Just a little bit one way or the other, and a square ruler, and that was it. That's all I needed for days. Okay, now, so, oh yeah, I've also seen some people try to solve the slippery problem by putting little rubber pads underneath that sort of elevate the ruler. Now, granted, the rubber pad will hold the things in place, but it elevates the ruler so much that what happens is they would slip. Just at the very end of cutting, you might get a little skew or that kind of thing. And we are really trying to be precise. We're not perfect, but we're trying to get better and better. And if it's the ruler's elevated, you can't hold it flat and secure. It's just going to give you more problems. I'm trying to avoid problems, aren't we? I mean, I am. I don't know. Yeah, okay. So we're trying to avoid those problems. So don't use those little rubber pads, but giving yourself some kind of grippy material, because one of the complaints you hear all the time is my ruler slips. It slips when I'm doing it. So we're going to try to solve some of those slipping problems, and one of those is a nice good grip. All right. So another thing, I'm just checking my notes. I'm not ignoring you. Just checking my notes. I want to make sure I cover everything because it'd be like me to skip something. Another thing that you can encounter with your ruler is, and with your blade, is that it skips, or you encounter skipping as you're going along. Now, sometimes if a ruler is really damaged, you can get a curve or a slip, and that you'd have to check out your ruler. And to solve that problem, I would say be nicer to your rulers. They're going to take good care of you if you'll take good care of them. So there's not much to do beyond that point except for buying a new one. And sometimes if you're skipping things when you're cutting, there can be a nick in your rotary blade. Sometimes, like if you steered over something. But one thing we forget is there might be a nick or a groove in the mat itself. These mats, my friend, even if you found a perfect one, they don't last forever. They just don't. So sometimes they get old and you need to replace them. Sometimes, I know I've seen online, there's lots of ways to clean them. I haven't personally tried that myself, but you go for it. Have a good time. You can try that out and see that if it will work. All right. Another problem that we don't often consider is table height when you're doing proper cutting technique. Why is that important? Well, I am a diminutive size. I'm not a tall gal, but some people are. And what you need to do is to find a table height that will allow you to put good pressure on the ruler and good pressure on your blade without, like this table, I wouldn't normally cut sitting down like this. That's too high. It'd be like T-Rex trying to cut and figure things out. That's too high. You can't get good, consistent, strong cutting, and that's what you want. Or you don't want something that's too low that you're hunched over all the time and hurting your back. One of the benefits of, I teach some classes at a local sewing and vacuum place, and they have all different kinds of and heights of cutting tables and cutting surfaces all around. They're for sale, the sewing furniture that's for sale. I like to tell people, okay, we're going to start you off on this one, but then if they say, oh, I just can't get it, it's just not working. Let's try a shorter table. Let's try a taller table. Let's move you around so you can get comfortable. Find what works for you. Again, the suggestions that I'm making, they're things for you to think about. They're not rules that you have to follow. They're things that you can try and see if they'll work better for you. Okay, so now I'm going to cut, and we're going to pretend I'm standing up here, all right? So I know you're not going to be able to see my face for part of it, and that's half the story, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to start cutting. Now, what I like to do when I'm getting ready to cut, I ignore the lines, and I'm going to ignore how these are different over here. I'm just cutting strips for the moment. And I like to line up my bottom edge, whatever it happens to be, on there if I can, but really my focus is this guy. I want to trim that little fuzzy edge off. So I'm going to put my ruler, I'm going to line my ruler up there. Right in there. Oh, another cool thing about creative grids. Okay, let me show you, because this is really neat. Like I said, they're thinking about what quilters want and need. If I have to cut 1-inch segments, check this out. I go 1, 2, 3, right? They're 1 inches. But if everything I'm cutting, say it's like 2.5, look at this. Half, 1, 2. So I can just line it up like that. It's beautiful. All right, but I'm not going to confuse it this time. I'm just going to show you in these segments. I'm going to line it up with a line on my mat here, my ruler, and now my stance. I want you to see. I am positioning myself right in front of the ruler. In fact, I'm just going to scooch myself over just a touch so you can see better. I'm positioning myself right there. Kind of think of this. The ruler is aimed at my belly button. Now you don't want the ruler off the table because you might bump it with your belly button. I mean, you don't want to do that. You want to avoid that because that's going to give you problems. All right, so here I am, aiming right here. I am centered. I'm not off to the side. I'm not over here. I'm not doing one of these numbers. Don't ever do that. And I don't care if they do it on the demos. I turn my stuff around because it's just dangerous, my friends. Okay, so here we go. All right, so I'm going to show you how to cut. I am lined up. Lined up, I'm good. Now you notice here at the bottom, I'm not at the very edge. I have about 1 inch left. I give myself a runway because I am going to cut with determination and courage, and I mean to make that cut. And so I'm going to give myself some lead-up time, right? I'm going to go, gotcha. because you don't want to start right here, because then there's kind of this little timidity. Oh, I have to start right there and go. No, if you do that slow, then I don't know, the fabric's going to think you're messing around. Like you're not serious that you're going to cut this. We are serious. We're going to make this magic happen. All right, so here I am. I'm lined up. Got my fabric where I want, and I have a little runway for myself. Now, I want you to notice my hand, okay? I'm going to act like this is a big ruler. Normally, I don't need to move my hand on this ruler because it's strong enough and I'm sturdy enough, but I'm going to pretend it's a big ruler as we do this. So here I am, and you see my hand? My hand is like a spider. I know we don't like spiders, but we're going to pretend, okay? This is a friendly spider. Maybe it's kind of a octopus made out of 5. I don't know. Anyways, we're gonna use this to our advantage. Okay, so I have it. I'm standing up. Now, when I press down and I'm standing up, I'm pressing down all the way from up here in my shoulder. And normally it'd be a much more firm stance. All of my fingers are secure and down there. They are holding this. This is not going to move. Now, I don't want to say that this will give you problems if you're holding your hand down like this, because then you can't move as you need to. Or if you lift up your hand entirely during the process, no, don't do that, please, no. So you don't want to hold your hand flat down like this, or something along this line, or something like that. Now, some people have big hands. I got the hands of an 8-year-old, but so I can put it all on here. Sometimes you need to go over here to this side, if that's okay. If you can still get good results and that works for you, do it. Okay. So now we're coming up here. We're obviously into the user part, your skills, which are going to get better all the time. All right. And please, you guys, pipe in if you do have any questions, because I could stop and answer them. I'd love to help you out. Okay, so I'm putting my hand here. I'm going to open my blade. Chink. Now I'm ready, and I'm going to go right along that line. And I want you to see, I'm going to start here. I press down. I am determined. And you see how I moved my hand forward? I'm going to move it back and show you again. So I have my hand about halfway up. Then I'm going to move it. I'm kind of walking it forward. I am still keeping all that pressure on the ruler. I'm not letting go of that pressure. Because what happens is if you shift halfway through, then it's going to slip. And it's not going to be good. Oh, see? Look at that. I didn't press well enough. We're going to do it again. And I'm going to show you. Okay. I'm going to line up on another one. Because I stopped. I wasn't determined, right? Does Julia Child say you have to have the courage of your convictions? We're going to do this. All right, here we go. Ready? Woo! There we go. Off. Beautiful. Yay! All right. Perfect. Nice, clean, crisp cut. Now, I want you to notice some other things about this fabric here that I have right in front of me. I have the fold here towards me. I don't like to cut multiple layers, because I find it can give me issues, that I can get a waviness or things can get off. I prefer to go just one fold like this at a time. I have seen some videos online that are amazing. You can cut through several layers at once. I have not yet perfected that skill, but you know, if you got it, go for it. That's awesome. Okay, so say I want a 2-inch strip, and I'm going to measure over. See, I have my 2-inch line on my ruler. See, I counted 1, 2, 2-inch line on my ruler. I'm not relying so much on my grid for the measurements, just for straight, just to help me master straight, okay? That's all I'm relying on it for. All right. Oh, I'm just making sure I got everything here, that I've covered all the points I want to make. Looking over there. Okay, oh, I don't have much of a runway there. All right. Can give myself some more time. This, we're going to make a nice, beautiful cut. Ready? Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, so we've made that nice cut. Now, so the reason that I keep my fold towards me, let me flip that over one more time. I keep the fold towards me because you know how sometimes when you cut it and you get like a little, instead of being a nice straight line, it's like a little smile, or an uncertain smile, because somehow it got off of here. Now, So the way that I avoid that happening is if I am cutting with the fold towards me and the salvage out there, then when I cut, and if I do happen to get like a little smile because I was reaching too far, it was too far for me to get accurate, then you know what, it's down there by the salvage. I'm going to cut that off and throw it away so no one will know. And here, where it's going to be in the middle of my territory, it's going to be awesome. All right, so let me just show you, going through a few cuts here. I have my small thing, and I do the same way when I cut. I just kind of turn it around, and we're going to be good to go. Now I need to lop off this, right? I don't need that business. So I kind of line it up, and you see, I'm using this as a straight edge. Just one more piece of insurance that I'm not wonky. Some people will turn their mat all the way over. I don't know how to do that. To me, it's fraught with peril, my friend. Fraught with peril. All right, so I'm going to trim this yuckiness off. And let's say the instructions said I needed 2-inch squares. So I'm going to cut, I'm going to count over 2 inches. I have this going straight. My strips are going straight. And there's my 2 inches, and I'm going to cut that. Now, what I'm noticing here is I'm doing this and even showing it to you, it's not giving me as clean a cut as I usually get. And that's because I don't have the height that I usually do to really press down and say, go. But we're gonna be resourceful here. Okay. So there you go. Lovely. 2-inch squares. Ta-da! All right. So I hope I've given you some things that you can try when you are working on your rotary cutting. Different solutions, different issues that you might come across with your rotary cutter itself, with your rulers that you might encounter, with slipping, with the mat. Maybe it has a flaw, maybe it has something that needs to be fixed. You can check that out. And with the fabric itself, getting it on a straight up grain, and also the user. I know, it's true, it happens. Think about height. Think about determination. Think about holding it down firmly. Firmly. It's not going to go anywhere. You want to hold that. You know, it's like the kid that's running away. No, stir right here. And then you got it. Okay. Well, I hope that you guys have gotten something out of this. At least something that you could try. I really hope you tune in next time. Next Wednesday. Oh, next Wednesday we're going to cover borders. That's right, making borders. Like I had to do the borders on this one. There's 3 borders, man. I know that's sort of a crazy thing because it's the first quilt that I designed for P&B Textiles, right? And they send all the color swatches so you know what it looks like, and then they say, okay, now make a quilt. Okay, and then I made that. And I designed it, right? It's just on the computer. Like, oh, I have to make this, don't I? So you see plenty of borders on there, and you can imagine how nerve-wracking it is to try to get everything straight when it's going to go and be on display in companies. Anyways. So I have some great tips for borders, how to keep them from being wavy or curved edges, and how to use them to rescue maybe a slightly wonky quilt. So I hope you'll join me next. Oh, no, wait, that's not next time. Next time is my semi-live show. That's right. That's right. I'm going to be at the studio, and I'm going to walk around, and I'm going to answer your questions. The time after that is going to be borders. So get your questions ready. Let me know what you think. I'll see you here next time. I will definitely broadcast at 6 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, and thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you guys next time.